So Oscar season is just around the corner. I got a chance a couple of days ago to catch a movie called Birth of a Nation, one that's caught a lot of buzz at the Sundance and of course the Toronto Film Festival last week. I got an early screening that's not released for another 2 or 3 weeks if I'm not mistaken. And there's a lot of intrigue behind this movie, not so much on the merits of the movie itself, although it is catching a lot of early buzz, more because of the controversy that's following it. I don't want to get too much into it, and this is a position where I even debated making this review because I feel strongly on the subject matter and I don't have all the facts. I don't think anybody really does what happened, but if you are interested, I suggest you kind of read up on it on Nate Parker, who was the writer, director of the movie. This is his first major motion picture that he's done. But there was also allegations of him and back in 1999 involved in some rape case with his co-writer of this film, who was actually convicted for rape and later released. But a lot of stuff going on. There's a real tragic story. But that all being said, I am going to separate the art from the artist and give this a objective review. It was difficult watching this movie, not thinking about that. Some people may not care about that, and that's your prerogative. I understand that. Some may find these things bothersome. Even the studio itself held off on some of the promotion because of some of the flack that's gotten out, because this information just got released somewhat recently, so it's made some headlines around Hollywood. But all that being said, let me get to my review. And with that, I'm welcoming you to another episode of The Real Mentor, where my goal, as always, is to enhance your movie watching experience. So Birth of a Nation, of course, written and directed by Nate Parker. This is his first major motion picture that he's directed anyway. And off the bat, let me say that it's got a lot of buzz, like I mentioned earlier, and it deserves a lot of praise. This is an excellent movie. I wouldn't go as far as to say this is Oscar worthy, but it's very close. So Birth of a Nation is basically a true story of Nat Turner, who was a slave, who grew up very educated. He knew how to read, which most slaves did not during those days. He was a preacher, which is again something unusual for a slave. And it goes through his story and how he eventually led a revolt against those who enslaved him down in the South. Now, this movie has a lot going for it. It's a few things I didn't quite like, which prevented from being that great Oscar contender I think most people thought it was going to be. But I'll get to that in a second. As far as the good is, this is a really well done movie. It's really well put together. You know, this was Nate Parker's baby, and you can tell that he was inspired by this, and he was clearly angered by it. And what this movie does really well is just kind of incite that anger. You're seeing the slavery, seeing some of that injustice that's going on, which really fueled them to lead this revolt. First and foremost, let me say that, you know, Nate Parker, he is sensational. His performance, unlike the movie, his performance is Oscar worthy. He's fantastic in the movie. He cared about what he was doing. He was all in, and it shows. It's a very nuanced performance. Again, it's a guy who was, I would say happy-go-lucky, but he was a very content preacher, using his faith to kind of push him through, and push his enslaved brothers and sisters. And you can see him making that change that the arc with this character makes, to where he's actually leading a brutal revolt. And I do mean brutal. And it's interesting because he uses that same faith and kind of spins it around to help fuel that fire. So there's a kind of contradiction there from the same faith that he used throughout the whole movie. And that's what Nate Parker did so well. This is portraying Nat Turner's life and his motivations, what fueled him, and that was great about it. On the other side of the coin, that's kind of one of its major crutches, because he didn't really allow for any other characters to shine through. This movie also stars Armie Hammer, as probably the only notable other name in this, and he's good in the movie. He plays the slave owner, of course, and who is kind of painted as kind of one of the good guys, and later ends up being one of the bad guys. But he doesn't give enough time for the rest of the characters. Even the love story, which was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, it didn't really pay off as much. It was still fine, and you still feel that anger when obviously this is not really a spoiler. His wife does get brutally raped and beaten up by, of course, by a couple the wife enslavers and all that. And that was the tipping point, which really fueled him to go out and lead this revolt. But it doesn't give enough time to that part of the story. It's really all about Nat Turner from beginning to end, and that's a good thing, and again, and a negative thing, because a great movie needs other great side characters along with it. By the same token, again, it's the pacing's a little off, little small things, a little choppy with the editing. Not a major big deal. You can tell this is his first movie, but at the same time, it's an impressive showing. This movie does invoke the emotion. It's got Nat Turner is a great character, and he does a good job portraying him in the movie. When it finally comes to the climax, it's really well done. It's exciting. It is brutal. It's very visceral, and it's sad, of course, at the same time. And that's what a movie like this should be like. Because we're not really celebrating slavery here. This is a dark time on this country, and he does a good job of portraying exactly how it was back in the day. So ultimately, despite what you may feel, other thing that's going on outside this movie with the director himself, even I try to separate myself from that. As a movie, it's an excellent, well-directed film. Not an Oscar contender, but a great movie. I do recommend you guys watch it. You don't have to necessarily go to the theater and watch it. I definitely recommend you watch it at home, VOD, Netflix, whenever it comes out. If you guys like going to the movies like myself, nothing else to watch. This is the slow season of the year for the most part. This is one I definitely recommend you get check out, especially if you like those true stories. If you like things about slavery and the Civil War, this is one I definitely recommend for you guys to go watch. So ultimately, at the end of the day, you guys are going to watch it. Comment below. I always like to know your thoughts, and even about what's going on with the whole rape situation with that. I'm interested to hear other people's thoughts and how this should or should not affect the movie experience. And of course, don't forget to subscribe below and feed my need to go to the movies and talk about it afterwards. See you guys next time.